right, this is Mind, Health, and Wellness with LaJune Relationship Edition. I would like to welcome my three T's. Thank you, ladies, for being here with me. The first T we have is co host Tikia Johnson, real estate professional, career strategist, and life coach. We have Tina Foy, CEO of Bella by Tina, podcaster, host of Beauty and Me with Tina, and self care advocate for moms. We have Coach-Tamica, author, speaker, integrative nutrition, relationship, and transformational mindset mastery coach. Thank you, ladies, for being here with me. Today's topic, we are talking about relationship when it comes to marriage, partnership, commitment, trust, all wrapped up, situationships, cuffing, because it's cuffing season, all wrapped up in one beautiful ball of what our experience looked like and how we have grown through the years. So, Coach-Tamica, you're up first. All right. What was your thought process of our experience you saw with relationship, or your belief of what you thought relationship should look like?
Well, I had different perspectives, so I didn't know which one it was supposed to be. I saw my parents who were divorced and my father was remarried. I saw the way my maternal grandfather treated my grandmother, and that wasn't good, and I didn't want that. And I had my paternal grandfather who absolutely doted on my grandmother. And he was really my saving grace. So when bad relationships came up, that's what I knew I didn't want. I wanted someone to treat me the way my grandfather treated my grandmother. And it took a whole lot of frogs. It took a whole lot of healing because I kept attracting some fools. And I was like, it can't be them. It got to be me. Like, what in the world going on with me? But eventually, I found the right person for me. And he's even better than what I imagined. So that was my experience with relationships. No one had long-term relationships, really. Not happy ones anyway. And that's what I saw. So that's what I didn't want to.
All right, Tina, what was your belief, your thought process, or what did you think relationships look like?
Well, I had different aspects of it. My mom and my dad weren't together, but my mom was with my stepdad and they had a great relationship. But my dad, he was married as well, and they had a great relationship. And I watched both my grandparents. The men did their due diligence, but the women ran the show. So I was always raised to be independent, but if you do have that one, you still run the show. But so there was also, I had a lot of uncles on my dad's side, and I was like, I don't want that, because that was a whole rotating closet. Didn't want that. I was like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. But they taught me what to stay away from. And looking at my aunt, she taught me what I wanted and how to set my boundaries. She had very high standards that she didn't lower for anyone. Even through college, she had what she expected in a guy, what he was supposed to do, and she would just cut him off. I think she was a true definition of cut off.
I love her.
That's definitely.
I love her.
All right, Tia.
I like Tamika had several different examples of relationships. It seemed like the examples that I had that were long term, my aunts and uncles who had been married for a very long time, I knew that that although they had been married a long time, I did not necessarily want that type of relationship, because it wasn't necessarily the healthiest relationship. However, I grew up in a single parent household, so I didn't have a true example of what relationship, partnership, and love and intimacy look like. I also grew up as a very independent child. So I don't think I had a true idea of what relationship looked like. And I definitely didn't understand that it was a partnership. And then I went into adulthood seeking relationships, trying to figure it out and learning along the way. But I don't know that I necessarily had an idea or an example of what relationships were well enough to even know what to expect from another person, when trying to build a relationship.
I can say personally for myself, I really don't remember my parents' relationship. Um, I think the most example I had was my aunt and uncle, my mom's sister, and it wasn't a good relationship. And I knew I didn't want a relationship like that because they both were cheating on each other. I know my dad did cheat on my mom because he did take me to other women's houses with him. But I didn't, I think I more so saw examples of how I wanted my relationship at that time from television, not just personal experience of physically knowing somebody in healthy relationships. Or they didn't talk to each other, they just coexisted in the house. So with that, we see a lot of families or marriages where they just coexist because they got kids. They don't talk to each other, if it's not anything related to the kids. So I know, the three of you are married or have been married. What was it for you that was important to keep that communication going where it's not, okay, yeah, we just gonna have dinner. If it's not about the kids, we just not gonna talk. So, Tina.
So with me, my marriage, I had trial and errors. I had frogs, as Coach-Tamica said. I had a couple frogs I had to go through, but it was communication is key. That is something that we go by. I don't care how mad you is. Take a break, breathe in the other room, come back. But we're gonna talk about this. We're not gonna go to sleep mad. And it's one of those where we set boundaries as far as what we expect our kids to see and what we don't want them to see. They know that we have moments where we get mad at each other, but they know that we're going to talk about it. And there's things that we don't talk about in front of them. And we also know that we love each other very much. And nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. But we have what we call deep, deep conversations. Conversations where sometimes it gets so deep you want to knock each other's heads off. You're being just straight, blunt, honest, but it keeps that line of communication open and you know that you can be honest with each other. And I think that's helped our marriage a whole lot, is having conversations where you're like, you know what, sometimes you just annoy me. Like, you do this and it just it's like, why do you do this? And people think, like, if you were to see us on a daily basis or even in a store, you'd be like, are y'all married? Or y'all brother, sister? What's going on? Like, what do y'all have going on? Because we talk about everything. We have the most weirdest conversations, and people really look like, y'all sure y'all married? Like, how do you talk to each other? Because some conversations seem weird to people, but I think in a relationship, if your spouse is not your best friend, then you have a problem. Your spouse is supposed to be your best friend. They're supposed to be a confidant, the person that you can go to when you're feeling some kind of way. And you don't have to worry about them judging you. You don't have to worry about them having this expectation of you because they think you're not human for whatever reason. So I think that has helped our relationship a whole lot, because the conversations, like I said, if you were to be a fly on the wall, you'd be like, I really question if y'all are related or what, because this is not a normal marriage conversation for you to be having. But it brings a peace of mind because you laugh. If you're friends, you can play games. You can have your kid moment. You can have your serious moment. You can talk about politics. You can talk about work and just vent to each other and be there to console each other. It makes a really, really big difference if communication is wide open and you stick to communication is key.
I 100% agree. Tikia.
I'm going to piggyback off of Tina, but from a different perspective, because Tina is in a very healthy relationship and communication has been a key part to keeping things going. I am a divorcee and I can truly agree with Tina, but from the perspective of that lack of communication, because my marriage and other relationships, I think that when the communication is not there, and you made a key point, like don't go to bed upset, talk about it, or at least come to some type of agreement at the end of the night. Like, okay, this is where we're going to end this conversation, but we're going to bed together and we're going to wake up together and we can continue it, but we're going to take a time out. I failed in that area of keeping the communication going, because in my mind, I thought that there's supposed to be a goal, like we're communicating to, but to what end? Like what's the goal at the end of this conversation? And if we're not solving it at the end of the conversation, or we're not, the communication is not leading to a resolution, then why are we having it? And I think I got stuck in that mindset of if we're going to have communication, it needs to be productive communication. And I failed to realize that sometimes the communication is not productive. Sometimes it's just continuing to have it till you reach the place where it can turn the road into productivity. But I very much would cut off the communication, like, oh, this is not going anywhere. I'm no longer, like, I shut down. So I agree with you, Tina, that, from the perspective of having relationships not work, that was a key factor in that, is that I did not keep the lines of communication open, regardless of, whether we were saying something that we wanted to hear or not hear, or whether you said it very blunt, very like just venting, saying how we felt. I shut that conversation down because I didn't feel like we were close enough to the finish line of resolution to keep going. And I think that was a huge failure in my relationships.
Coach-Tamica.
I agree with both Tikia and Tina. Communication can be the best thing or it can be the worst thing. I think for me, with my last marriage, it wasn't so much of a lack of communication. It was more of I picked the wrong damn person. And when you pick the wrong person, you can be talking about X trying to get to Y, and they talking about A trying to get to B. And that was the problem. And I had to just let it go, because we were never on the same wavelength. We weren't even in the same book. But that wasn't his fault. That was my fault, because I saw what I wanted to see, and I figured the stuff I didn't like, I could change. But you can't change no grown ass man. So that was it with me. And that taught me, yes, communication is where it's at, but we at least got to be on the same book, because I can't be, reading War and Peace and you reading To Kill a Mockingbird and we just going at it all the time. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. So like after that failed marriage, again, for me, because I was just a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. I really had to let go of negativity and find out, what did I want in a relationship? What did I want? Did I want another type A person? No, because that's too much of that, because I'm already type A. And just getting real clear. And once, I met my husband, and like Tina says, we could talk about anything. It doesn't matter. People looking at us, and they have asked us if we were brother and sister. So we do get that a lot. Or when my daughter's with us, then they think that, we're like, she's his daughter and like I'm the sister. Like, it's really funny when we're talking. But it's important. It's important that you find the right person for you. Because again, if you with that wrong person, you can be communicating all day, every day, and it's just going to be, wah, wah, wah. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work.
I totally agree because I think communication is big. And definitely in my last relationship, it was a lot of times that I wasn't heard, and it was re traumatizing me from when I told my mom I was being molested. And I knew that I had to take time for myself because I feel like a lot of times parts of us show up in relationships because it's been many times where I didn't listen to myself or I didn't hear myself. And that carries over in a relationship because people treat you how you treat yourself. And I 100% believe that. And the crazy part, my ex and I are amazing friends. And sometimes, it is maybe you're better off as friends than being together. And I decided to, because I used to have the habit of cuffing. Soon as I got out of a relationship, I was jumping into another cuffing situation. And then that didn't work. I was jumping into another cuffing situation after my last relationship. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore because it's not healthy. It's not productive. It's an unhealed, toxic person continuing to attract the same type of people that are unhealed and unhealthy in that trauma bond thing. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. Or the main thing of I'm trying to make somebody else happy because I'm not trying to deal with the stuff that I personally have going on. And I was big on doing that. So I decided to take these years to focus on me and to date me and to understand that I needed to have self communication and self healing before I bring somebody else in my life because I've had people who would DM me and say, "Oh, I want to make you happy." That's a red flag to me because I'm like, that sounds like you not happy and you trying to focus on me because I've done the same thing. So speaking of that, that term of I want to make you happy, how did that look for you guys? Or your experience with that, Tikia?
Um, I found that if you're not happy, no one can make you happy. And one thing that I think I've taken from all my other relationships, and I will take into any new relationship that I enter, is that um, I have to understand what makes me tick and what makes me happy. I recognize that I'm a very independent person and I need a lot of me time, a lot of alone time. So I want to make sure that I'm communicating that to my partner, but I'm also um, giving my partner the space to say whether that's something they may want to be in a relationship where we're like this all the time, then that's probably not the right connection for me, and they're not going to be happy. So understanding what makes me happy so I can communicate that to my partner. One thing that I would say I've also I recognize is going to be needed in future relationship is understanding how I grow as an individual and grow in a partnership at the same time. Because I think that I've failed in that area also. And that's where I've been unhappy and my partner not been able to make me happy is because I was either nurturing and catering the relationship. And then as an individual, I wasn't growing. Or I was growing as an individual and the relationship was lacking. So understanding how I blend those two where I'm growing as an individual, because I do believe in partnerships that you have to continue to grow, but also you have to nurture the relationship. So I'm still learning, I'm still growing. I would love to hear from Tina and Tamika how they're navigating that space of happiness and growth as an individual and as a couple too.
Right.
Well, it's like for me, I learned the hard way that you cannot make somebody happy. I don't know if it was my Aquarian nature, always want to help people, always want to change people, always trying to fix their problems. And it does not work. So in order to be in a relationship, I hate when they say, oh, I'm one half and you're another half and we make a whole. No, then your relationship already broken. No, you come whole, they come whole, then you come together. And when you have that right person for you, because like Tikia said, if you meet somebody and they want to be all with you 24/7, then you like, no, it's not gonna work. So you always have to be true to yourself in a relationship first. And if you have that right partner for you, hopefully while you're growing, they're growing, you're growing together, and you're growing, side by side. Because a lot of times what happens is, especially when you're in a long-term relationship and you've raised kids, if you haven't nurtured that marriage, what happens? The kids go to college and now you divorce because you don't even know each other anymore. So back to communication being key. Have those date nights, have those deep, deep, deep conversations. Because if you don't, it's just not going to work out for you. So I'm very blessed to know that every crazy, stupid, dumb stuff I want to do, Christian is like, all right, baby, how we gonna do it? Well, what you want? What you like? He will never say no if it's something that I want to do that I think is gonna better me, and vice versa. And that's what I love about being in that relationship. We challenge each other, but we don't hinder each other. Who am I to say you can't do that? I don't know. You probably can. So that's what works for me and my relationship anyway. What about you, Tina?
I agree with you 100%. Actually, your significant other is supposed to be like your cheerleader. Yes, you have to love yourself. You have to know yourself so you can communicate what you like and what you don't like. But you also have to be able to listen. And I tell my boys this all the time. You listen to understand. You don't listen to respond. And I think once you get that part done, because if you can listen to understand and get their point of view or put yourself in their shoes, you could be like, you know what? Yes, I was wrong. Let me fix this. Or maybe we should do this. Or even just come to, you know what? We're going to agree to disagree and move on from the situation, because you're not going to always agree on everything.
Exactly.
And I think that has definitely helped. And tone, I forgot to mention, in communication, tone is a big, big thing. Because for me personally, I am very big on tone. You can say hello, but if your tone is off, I'm like, okay, what's wrong? But if you say hello in a certain way, I'm like, oh, okay, you having a good day, cool. But tone is a big thing when you're communicating, whether you're having a disagreement about something or you're agreeing on something, because you can say you're agreeing, but mentally or subconsciously you don't agree, and your tone is telling that you don't agree, and that can cause a whole nother situation that you do not want. It can be avoided. So tone is a big thing when conversating, and I think that has helped a lot in my relationship. I am very big on tone, and sometimes I forget the times when I have a little attitude under what I'm saying, even though I don't mean it. I'm thinking about something else, and I'm not in that moment. But when I catch myself, I'm like, oh, okay, let me adjust myself. I'm sorry that I said it that way. I didn't mean it that way. My brain was somewhere else, but I was having this conversation with you. So if you can admit your faults and admit that, hey, you know what, I have moments, or I'm wrong about this situation, or I'm right about this situation, but I get where you're coming from, it would make things a lot easier. Like I said, nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. But if you can understand each other through the good, bad, and the ugly, you'll be fine.
So with that, how did you guys learn or adapt with love languages, implementing commitment and trust? Because I know, Tamika, with your experience, because you always talk about, you said to Christian, I'm just waiting for this other shoe to drop. How are you able to, add, okay, I'm truly going to commit, I'm truly going to trust, I'm truly going to give you totally me? Because some people still have that fear because they were cheated on, or they were abused, or whatever, or what they saw with their parents. If you can talk about your experience of being able to open up to say, you know what, I want this marriage, I want you, I want this family, I want to trust you.
Well, that was difficult. That was a challenge because of who I was and what I experienced. And time is really what did it. Time and certain situations. You know, when you at a party and you got this little half naked child all up in somebody's face, and he's just looking at you like, doo, 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 doo. I'm like, you don't see that half naked girl over there? He ain't paying her no mind. So I'm like, okay, he must really be into me. But I had to have a conversation with myself and say, you know, I can either be withdrawn and only give him 80% while waiting for the other shoe to drop. What if that other shoe didn't drop for 30 years? So now I spent 30 years not being who I truly was, not having an amazing relationship because I kept thinking about that other shoe dropping. And that's when I just said, you know what? I'll take the chance. I had already asked God, is this supposed to be the guy for me? And every time the phone would ring, every single time, God, you already know I can't go through. I'm about to be in jail if another one of these relationships don't work out. If you send me one of these crazy mugs again, God, give me a sign. I kid you not. I said that at least 30 times. And every time I said it, he'd be popping up. We used to work together, so he'd either pop up or my phone would ring. And then I just was like, okay, well, why keep asking? This is for me. So sometimes when you don't trust people, it's because you don't trust yourself. And I didn't trust myself because my picker was off. I was picking all wrong stuff. So I didn't trust myself. But sometimes you just meet that person that God puts into your life for a reason. And you say to yourself, you know what? Let me just take that chance. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least I gave it my all. And fortunately for me, he is still the same way. He has not changed. The things that I loved about him are the things he still does. We always joke. I'll be like, how you get me is how you keep me. And it's the truth. So we still do those same things. But it really was me healing and learning to trust myself so that I can trust him. And once I did that, I mean, our relationship was already good, but once I did it, it just opened up just a whole new realm that I didn't even know was possible.
All right, Tina.
That is very true. When you're hurt, I've been hurt before. When you're hurt, you have all types of guards up. You're more secure than Brinks security. When you've been hurt really bad, you are more secure than Brinks security, and it is hard to break those walls down. And you have to learn how to let it go. And with my husband and I just let it all. I was like, look, this is what's happened to me. This is how I feel. I have triggers that certain things, if you do certain things, they trigger me. Like, it's not your fault, but if you do it, just know, hey, I might act funny. You might see another side of me that you don't want to see. So I kind of laid it all out there. I'm like, give me time. It's not you. Certain things you do will trigger me. It will make me respond a certain way. I will shut down. And luckily he was patient enough and calm enough. And we've known each other since high school too. So that, I think, played a role in it as well, in how we got back together. And when we first got back together and he admitted his feelings, I told him, I was like, look, if you're not serious, don't waste my time. I can be by myself. I can do bad all by myself. Don't waste my time. I've already been there, done that. Don't need it. And he's like, no, I got you. Okay, we'll see. Actions speak louder than words. But I was probably too blunt, but I was very honest, because if I can tell you what I've been through, don't do this. Because if you do this is what's going to happen. And we've had some real conversations going down, just real blunt and down to nitty gritty. And there's been some difficult times, but because of that communication, that, you know what, I've been hurt, he's been hurt. Okay, how do we fix this? How do we let our guards down? What do we need to do? Communication helped a whole lot with letting each other know, hey, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. And there's times where you're just like, you know what, let's switch this up. What does work for you instead of saying what doesn't work for you? Let's change the language around. Okay, this works for you, let's do this. And I'm weird. Anyone that knows me, I am not your typical lady. I love crazy sci-fi movies. I love pink, if y'all can't tell. Things that is not so serious. I'm very down to earth and mellow. And even though he's always like looking around, he's security, he's very honed. I'm just like la 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 la, running around, not thinking about anything. He understands that about me, that I'm just kind of carefree. So he knows, hey, I got to be extra. I have to be both of our eyes. I have to look for her and me because she's just in La La Land in her own little happy world. And but we have that understanding. I think once you have that understanding of each other, the likes, the dislikes, this is your personality. Personally, you don't have to change. If you find a person that don't want you to change because they met you that way, but they want to improve you, that's your person. He knows that I'm airheadish at times, and he's just like, okay, you know what? I got to look for you and me because you're going to be in La La Land. Cool. And he's fine with that. He's not trying to change, oh, you need to do this. He does tell me, hey, when you're by yourself, you need to do this, which I know, but with him, because I feel secure, I'm able to let my guard down and just be in La La Land. And that's the kind of feeling you want. You want to be able to be in your feminine energy and just be who you want to be because you have that security with your person. Just like I know when he's in his moment, I'm going to be more stern and be more serious and make sure everything is the way it needs to be. But if he's in his good mood, I get to be carefree because that's my role. That's what I like to do. That takes the pressure off of me. I get to get away from business and be carefree. So I think if you have that person that just gets you and you get them, it's the best thing ever because you get to be who you are. You get to improve each other. Like you said, you get to be 100% each, not come 50-50 because that's not going to work out. But come 100% yourself. Be authentic with each other and yourself. And it works out. You're able to let your guard down. You're able to be yourself. You're able to get up in the morning with your hair all over your head, no makeup on your face, and they still tell you you're beautiful. That's your person.
Mm-hmm.
When you know you look a hot mess, they're like, you know what? You're beautiful. Good morning.
Yes. All right, Tikia.
Well, I actually was listening to Coach-Tamica and Tina, and both of you made two really good points that I'm hoping that we can dig a little deeper in. Coach-Tamica, you made a comment. You said that you didn't trust yourself because your I forgot what you said. Your
picker was off.
Your picker was off, right? And I love that because so often we project onto others what it is that we're really feeling about ourselves. Knowing that moving from one relationship to the other, you dealt with some trust issues within yourself that you may have been projecting onto your soon-to-be partner at that time. What are some of the things, like, did you create this checklist? A lot of people, they like, I got to create this checklist and this is what my partner has to have. But most often they don't have all of those qualities and we make these checklists. And if they don't check the box, then we exclude them from like the candidates, I guess you would say. So did you, when you had the failed relationships, you recognize that there were some issues with your picker. How did you go about choosing the next one? Did you do that checklist or did you kind of, do what Tina said? You just know that's the person. When I always say I want the next person to love my flaws. I want them to absolutely love the things about me that I'm like, oh my God, I can't stand that. Or I need them to love those flaws about me because those are the things that are going to continually show up that I may not be able to change. So I need them to love that. So what are some of your checklist items or your method for picking the next person?
What I did was I only wanted somebody that was going to take care of my heart. That was my criteria, because to me that encompassed everything. That means you had to be loving. That means you had to treat me like a queen because I'm going to treat you like a king. That means you're not going to disappoint me. That means you're not going to hurt me. that was my only criteria. What I did differently before I met Christian was I was by myself for a long time. And I had to go to therapy and I had to clean up that stuff that was in there because I didn't even know why I was attracting the same type of person.
Mhm.
So I had to kind of get down in there and clean that up, as I say. And once I did that, when I met him, because at that point I was developing my relationship with God, and I just started to go to God for everything and give me a sign, because God will give you a sign if you open up enough to hear it. And sometimes the sign you want, if it's not the sign you want, then you disregard it. You like, oh, I didn't get my sign. You got your sign, you just wasn't listening. So for me, and I really, really, really believe that. My friends to this day, they just think I'm crazy. It's like, well, what do you mean you ask God? What do you mean I ask God? Me and God like this. What you mean? So, but it came back to I had to trust that I was going to attract the right person to me. And when Christian and we worked together for a long time before we even started, dating, and just the conversations, it was just little things, little things. And I was just like, but I was like, nope, 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 because I was still kind of hating anything that spelled MAN. And the more I cleaned, the more the conversations got deeper, the more I was like, that's when I started asking God, let me know if this is the right person. Let me know. And those signs, I was open enough to let those signs in. And then I just knew. And that was what was so different with the last marriage. I didn't ask God anything. And I knew there was signs that something wasn't right, but you know how we do. We could fix that. I didn't want to fix nobody. I was too busy trying to fix myself. So that is why it was this feeling. It was just this feeling. And I had never had this feeling. And it scared me to death, to be perfectly honest. Because I'm so independent that I had to learn how to not be so independent and let him lead sometime. And that's kind of hard because I'm type A. And, but yeah, it was that relationship with God and therapy. I tell everybody, get a good therapist. And I'm a coach. So coaches definitely need therapists because we're trying to solve people's problems all day long. But that really, that helped. That year of therapy really helped me uncover things that I forgot about, but it was still playing negatively in my life.
Tina?
Well, It is a combination of things. Like Tamika said, you can't project. You have to be honest. You have to, and honesty sometimes hurts. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts being honest with yourself to realize, okay, you know what, part of this may be my fault. Part of this is I could have avoided this. And you have to be upfront with yourself. I think once you do that, everything else kind of falls into place. But definitely talk to God because He's going to show you. And like Tamika said, some of those signs you don't like. I've had a few where I'm like, really? I could have did without it. You could have just told me straight out, just put it in smoke or something. I could have did without it. But when you don't listen to Him, He has a way of making you listen. So I would definitely say talk to God and He will answer, whether it's the answer you want, answer you don't want, but He definitely will listen. And with me, with my husband, I did a lot of talking, a lot of praying, a lot of I don't know if I want to go down this road. I might just want to be single. I don't know if I want to be bothered. I don't know if this is the right person. Yeah, everything was sweet. My thought was at the time, a guy would tell you whatever just to get with you, which is technically true. So that was my thought process at first. Like, okay, is this real? And God would respond. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, well, what if he does this? Or what if he does this? It was always what if, what if, what if. And I finally had to realize, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a fortune teller. You don't know. Just let it go. Time will show all. Once I let my hurt and my questions go, because I always had questions. I always wanted to know why, what if, when, how, when it's coming. I had all the W's I had. All the W's I had. So you have to just let all the questions go and trust in yourself. Pray about it if you're second guessing yourself, because there will be times, honestly, where you do second guess yourself. And be honest with yourself of everything, whether it's your attitude, whether it's your tone, whether it's how you're carrying yourself. Be honest. If you're honest with yourself, it will make a big change, because you'll be able to see, is it you or is it them?
Mm-hmm.
And once you figure that part out, everything else falls into line. Because you'll see that they mean you well. You see that they really care for you. I always said I wanted a man that was in love with me and not just love me. He had to be in love with me. Because you can love any and everybody. You love your family, you love your friends. I want him in love with me. I knew that he had my heart and I had his. He could see somebody else walking by and it don't make a difference. We could have a conversation about that person and it don't make a difference. Even now we laugh about it, because we'll go in a store and there'll be females like staring him down like, do you see me? Do you see me? Do you see me? And he doesn't even notice. I'm like, did you not see her? No. He didn't notice a man looking at me, but he doesn't notice if a female's looking at him. He doesn't know if a man looking at me. He's like, he's staring you down. Like, what's wrong? But he doesn't notice if a female is staring at him. And she, like, they're like really obvious. Like if you take a picture, it lasts a lot longer. I promise you. If you take a picture, it will last a whole lot longer than staring him down. And it's one of those things that's what I always said. I wanted a man that was in love with me, not just love me. I wanted loyalty. If I had loyalty, I know I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to question anything. And there is times mentally, subconsciously, you will be like, you know what if? But it goes by the wayside. You don't think about it again, because you know you have that loyalty. You know that person is in love with you. So you don't have to question anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that is a huge thing. I can say personally for me, I did take a lot of, in my last relationship, it was a lot of that expectation of leaving, because my dad died. And I was like, okay, I know it's going to be either a breakup, you know, they gonna die, something. I can't just, something's gonna happen. I can't just pour all into it. And that was my fear that I was projecting into the relationship. And I had to learn from that, what you expect and what you project actually happens. So it was a blessing for me that, the relationship did end, because it helped me to look at a lot of stuff that I needed to heal and I needed to grow from. And I needed to know in my next relationship that I'm not bringing those expectations of they're going to leave in some shape or form, because you're right. If you're thinking it, you believe it, you're absolutely right. They're going to leave. So I had to learn from me, I had to change my energy around that when it either comes with myself. So, that was one of the biggest things for me, because I think, when you project onto other people, like Tina mentioned, you're absolutely right. What you think, what you believe, what you see, you're absolutely right, and it will come to pass. So, Tikia.
I appreciate all you ladies coming on talking about your relationships. It's a vulnerable place to be in. And it's also great for all the listeners to hear like what worked, what hasn't worked, and how to look at things in the future. I've definitely learned a lot from this conversation, having been in relationships. I definitely know the don'ts, and I anticipate the do's, and reframing my thought on how I look at relationships. So this was a very meaningful conversation for me, especially because I am coming out of a relationship. Not necessarily looking forward to getting into another one yet. I think I'm going to be like Coach-Tamica and take a long time and do some reflection and some healing, and continue on my therapy journey, to understand how I am showing up in the relationship and how I want to be honest, like you said to Tina, about what my needs are, what my wants are, what my expectations are. And then to be honest when I hear them tell me the same thing, to expect them to be honest with me, but to also hear it exactly as they're saying it and not try to change it into what I want it to be. So, lots of great information, lots of great insight. I know we're nearing the end. So I just wanted to say I really appreciate you guys for just being so vulnerable and talking about your relationships.
Anytime.
You're welcome. Yeah, anytime, anytime.
Yes,
It all
thank
goes back
you.
to self-love, really. That's what I
Oh, yeah.
realized. It's like when you may think you love yourself, but if you keep being a part of abusive relationships, that's a red flag
Yeah.
that you don't love something.
Mhm.
Something's going on.
Mhm.
And until you clean that up, I'm telling you, it'll be like night and day. It'll be like, what? It's just, you'll look back. Like I look back like, dang, how in the world? Like I don't even remember that person.
Mhm.
So,
Very true.
that's what it was for me. It was the lack of self-love. And when I got my self-love, I didn't become conceited. I'm convinced, but I'm not conceited. But once that happened, and then I realized I can have what I want, because sometimes you may think you can't even get what you want. You may tell, and this is why I don't tell too many people what I'm doing when it comes to a relationship, because my wants, if I'm like, yeah, you know what, Tikia, you can't have that because of XYZ, and then you thinking, oh, am I asking for too much? Oh, and then you go meet Joe halfway schmo, and you be like, okay, he's okay. Let me just give him a chance. Mm-mm. Whatever you want, I don't care if you wanted somebody who made $1 million. If that's what you want, you stay focused on that, and you'll get it. You'll get it. So that's for anybody out there. Be true to yourself. Know what you want. Have a goal, because if you don't have a goal, you'll go anywhere.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. Well,
Yeah.
I
And that
thank
actually
you,
leads us
ladies.
to our show tomorrow is about love and relationship with self. So that was a great segue, Tamika.
Yeah, yes.
Yay.
So I thank you, ladies, so much for sharing your stories and being vulnerable on your relationship, because relationship is hard, especially in this day and age. Everything is so public and everybody is posting something. They want to show how great and happy their relationship is. And we end up hearing they're not together anymore because you got everybody in your business. And I think, everybody doesn't need to know what's going on in your relationship from, oh, well, he cussed me out. Oh, he got me this. Oh, this and this and this. That's not everybody's business. Some things we need to continue to learn to keep private within ourselves, and that makes a healthy relationship. Personally, I think for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I think nowadays we are letting too many people in our business when it's only you and your husband, partner, spouse, whatever you want to call them. So sometimes we need to get back to that. So, I thank you for sharing your stories. I thank you for your vulnerability. We will see you guys tomorrow for relationship with self and how we've grown from where we are now. Thank you for joining us for Mind,
Thank
Health, and
you.
Wellness with LaJune, Relationship Edition. Till tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Thank you.